Everyone in the great hall is laughing. The Duke is laughing so hard his silk doublet is straining at the buttons. The guards are leaning against their halberds, tears in their eyes. They are laughing at you. Not with you, at you. And you are standing on an oak table wearing a coat sewn with small bells, waiting to see if you are going to be rewarded with a silver coin or dragged down to the courtyard to have your tongue cut out. Because the joke you just made was about the Duke's missing treasury money. And in the year 1348, the line between a brilliant performance and high treason isn't a line at all. It's a razor blade, and you're dancing on it barefoot. Your name is Cobb. Not the name your mother gave you. The name your mother gave you was Thomas. But Thomas doesn't make lords spill their wine. Thomas doesn't make the Duke's shoulders shake. Cobb does. So Cobb is what you are now. Welcome to your life as a medieval court fool. Level 1. The Arrival. You didn't plan this. Nobody plans this. 6 months ago, you were the miller's third son in a village called Ashford that sat on a road nobody traveled on purpose. You had 2 older brothers who would inherit the mill and the land, and the particular set of problems that came with both. You had a father who laughed easily at his own jokes, which were not good jokes. You had a gift. Not a useful gift, not a gift that helped with the grinding or the harvest or the carrying of heavy things. Your gift was that you could make people laugh. Not politely, not the kind of laugh that people do to be kind and then forget. The kind that catches in the throat and turns into something almost involuntary. You did the voices of the village priest. You walked like the blacksmith. You told a story about a goat and a magistrate that got repeated in every tavern between Ashford and the market town for 3 seasons running. Then a merchant traveling through stopped to rest his horse and heard you in the yard doing an impression of his own trading negotiations and laughed so hard he sat down in the dirt. He wiped his eyes. He looked at you for a long moment. He said he knew a man. He said that man knew another man. He said there was a place for a boy like you if you wanted it. You were 16 and the mill had 2 heirs already. You said yes before he finished the sentence. Your mother held your face in both her hands the morning you left. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she said, "Be careful who you make laugh." You thought that was a strange thing to say. You smiled. You told her not to worry. You did not know then what she meant. Level 2. The Education. The castle sits on a rise above the river. When you first see it, you think it looks like something from a story. Towers, banners, and walls the color of old bone catching the afternoon light. It looks like the beginning of an adventure. It is not the beginning of an adventure. A man named Roland meets you at the servants' entrance. He is perhaps 50, perhaps older. He looks at you the way a man looks at a horse he is considering buying. Not unkind, not warm, evaluating. He asks you 3 things. Can you fall without hurting yourself? Can you hold a tune? Can you take a blow to the face and keep smiling? You say yes to the first 2. You hesitate on the third. He says hesitation is an honest answer. He says you'll learn. He was right. You learn. The first thing they teach you is the costume. Not just how to wear it, what it means. The bells, which ring constantly and announce you as someone who cannot hide. The motley coat, which combines colors that respectable people would never combine, marks you visually as other, as outside the normal order of things. You are being dressed as a category. Not a person, a category. The second thing they teach you is the difference between what you are allowed to say and what you are not allowed to say. This turns out to be a very thin line, and it moves depending on the day, the mood, the political weather, and the particular sensitivities of whoever is sitting in the chair at the end of the hall. Roland explains this carefully. He speaks slowly, the way a man speaks when he wants you to understand that the stakes are real. Fools have been beaten for the wrong joke, Roland says. Fools have been imprisoned. One fool, he pauses here, deciding how much to tell you. One fool lost his tongue. You think about this at night on your narrow straw mat in the servants' quarters. You think about it for several nights in a row. The third thing they teach you is the audience. The hall is not one audience. It's 20 different audiences sitting in the same room. The Duke responds to one thing. The Queen responds to another. The senior nobles want mockery aimed downward at the people below them. The junior nobles want mockery sideways at their rivals at the same table. The servants near the walls, if you can make them laugh, and you're not supposed to aim for them, will remember you kindly, and this will matter later in ways that are hard to explain. You begin to understand that performance is also intelligence work. You are reading the room constantly. You are watching faces. You are calculating. A jester who relies on instinct alone is a jester who will one day misread the room fatally. Roland says this often.
Level 3. The work. You are good at it. This is both the best and the strangest thing about your situation. You are genuinely good at what they have made you do. The voices, the physical comedy, the sharp observation, the careful delivery. You have a talent for it, and the talent doesn't care about the context it finds itself in. It simply functions. The first time you make the Duke laugh, properly, genuinely, the kind of laugh that doubles a man forward over the table, something happens in the hall. You can feel it. 200 people collectively relax, like a tide going out. The Duke's laughter is permission. His laughter means today is a safe day. You understand something in that moment. You are not simply entertainment. You are a pressure valve. You are the mechanism that allows enormous tension to leave the room without breaking anything. The power in this is real, and it is also nothing. Because the moment the laughter stops, you are invisible again. The moment the performance ends, you return to a very specific kind of not quite anywhere. You are not a servant. Servants have defined roles in a clear hierarchy. You are not a noble, obviously. You are not a soldier or a priest or a clerk. You exist in a category that the social order doesn't quite have a place for, which means you have access to spaces that others don't, and also means that you have almost no protection. You eat in the hall, but you sleep in the servants' quarters. You speak to the Duke, but you cannot sit at his table. You can say things that would earn another man a beating, but only if you say them in precisely the right way, at precisely the right moment, wrapped in precisely the right theater to make them feel like a joke rather than a truth. Level 4. The politics. There is a man at court named Sir Geoffrey. Sir Geoffrey does not like you. He has never liked you. He is perhaps 40, broad-shouldered, with the bearing of a man who has spent his whole life being taken seriously and considers it a right rather than a circumstance. He sits near the center of the high table, and he watches your performances with flat eyes and a slight downward pull at the corner of his mouth. You learn quickly that making Sir Geoffrey laugh is almost impossible. You also learn that mocking Sir Geoffrey, even gently, even carefully, is more dangerous than it appears, because Sir Geoffrey has the ear of the Duke in matters that matter, and a word from Sir Geoffrey in the wrong moment can change your situation dramatically. You do not mock Sir Geoffrey. You let him sit there with his flat eyes, and you perform around him the way water moves around stone. This is a lesson in the broader geography of survival inside a palace. Everyone here is maneuvering. The nobles scheme for land, for titles, for the Duke's favor in decisions about succession and war. The senior servants ploy for position and security. Even the priests maneuver, quietly, in the language of spiritual access and moral influence. And you, in your bells and your motley, in your designated role as the person who makes the room laugh, you plan too. You cannot afford not to. Level 5. The cost. Something happens to a face that spends years performing emotions. You notice this first in mirrors, then in your own hands. You catch yourself smiling when you are alone, which is not a natural thing. The performance has leaked into the non-performance. The expressions have begun to run together. You were someone who laughed easily. You are still someone who laughs easily, but you begin to have difficulty knowing sometimes whether you are laughing because something is funny or because you have trained your body to produce laughter in situations that call for it, and those two things are harder to separate than they should be. There is a woman in the kitchen. Her name is Alice. She works with the bread. She has flour on her forearms nearly always. She is the first person in 2 years who treats you as if you have an interior life that is simply yours. She does not ask you to be funny. She does not smile when you enter the room the way people do when they are expecting a performance. She just talks to you about her sister, about the difficulty of bread and damp weather, about a cat she has been feeding near the south courtyard. You sit with her at the kitchen table when your evenings allow it. You talk about nothing of consequence. It is the most restoring thing you do. You don't analyze this too carefully. You just guard it. Because the alternative, becoming a person who exists only in relation to the laughter of others, is visible in some of the older fools you have now met at other courts passing through. Men in their 40s, 50s, who have been doing this so long that the performance has consumed the person entirely. They are brilliant at the work. They are hollow everywhere else. They have the particular kind of loneliness that comes not from isolation, but from having spent decades being known as a type rather than a person. You think about this at night sometimes. You don't like where the thinking goes, but you don't stop it. You think about Ashford, your mother's hands, the sound of your father's not very good jokes delivered with total conviction. You try to recall the exact smell of the mill in summer and find that it has faded somewhat. This bothers you more than it should.
Level 6. The day it almost breaks. You have been at court for 3 years now when it happens. It is winter. The hall is close and smoky. There has been news from the border, not good news, and the hall has the particular compressed tension of a room full of people who are worried and cannot say so. The Duke is at the head of the table, and his face is arranged into a neutrality that people who know him recognize as controlled unhappiness. Roland found you an hour ago in the courtyard. He didn't say anything specific. He just put one hand briefly on your shoulder and gave you a look that said, "Tonight is a serious night. Be careful." You enter the hall. The bells ring. A few automatic smiles from habit. You begin. You read the room correctly in the first 2 minutes. You stay light, you stay safe, you navigate around anything that touches the border, the war, the taxes, the news. You are doing the work well. You can feel it. And then, from somewhere in the middle of the hall, a drunk knight says something about your mother. It is crude, and it is loud, and it is designed to get a response. The hall goes half quiet. Some people watching you now, waiting. This is a very old trap. It is almost comically obvious. The fool who loses his temper has stopped being a fool and started being something the court can punish legitimately. The drunk knight knows this. Everyone in the hall who is sober knows this. You smile. It takes everything you have to smile. Your hands are steady. Your voice, when you use it, is cheerful. You turn the insult into a joke about yourself, then about fools in general, then, with surgical precision, about men who drink so much at dinner that they mistake their own reflection for a stranger and try to fight it. The hall laughs. The Duke lets out a smirk. The drunk knight laughs too, eventually, because not laughing now would make him look worse than the original remark. You finish your performance. You walk back through the side passage to the servants' corridor. You lean against the stone wall in the dock. The bells on your coat ring softly with the movement of your breathing. You stand there for a while. Level 7. What you know now. You have been here 5 years. You are 22. You are, by most accounts, the best fool this court has had in a generation. Roland told you this once, without warmth, which is how Roland delivers compliments, and you understood it was genuine precisely because of that. You know this court the way you know your own hands. The Duke's patterns, the Queen's preferences, the rising stars and the fading ones, the alliances that are public and the ones that are conducted through careful seating arrangements and the specific timing of small favors. You are an observer of the entire system. You are also inside the system and therefore subject to it. Both of these things are true at the same time, and this is a tension you have stopped trying to resolve. You are not free. You understand this clearly now. You can say more than almost anyone else. You can go more places. You have a kind of invisibility that is genuinely useful, but you leave only when the season changes and the court moves and you move with it. Your life is attached to this institution in a way that was decided before you fully understood what you were agreeing to. And yet, you are sitting by the kitchen fire on a free evening. Alice is across the table. Outside the window, snow is falling on the courtyard. The cat she has been feeding is asleep near the hearth. Someone in a distant part of the building is playing a lute, the same few bars over and over. It is a small evening in a large, complicated place. You are in this moment simply a person sitting near a fire. It is not nothing. Years pass. You are 31. You have survived 3 separate assassination attempts, 2 famines, and a minor siege. You are old for a fool. One evening, the castle is quiet. The winter wind is howling against the arrow slits, and the great hall is empty except for the dying embers of the hearth. The Duke is sitting alone at the high table. He doesn't have his crown on. He just looks like an old, tired man whose sons are waiting for him to die. He spots you sitting in the corner, cleaning the mud off your boots. "Come here," he says. His voice isn't loud, it isn't threatening. You walk over, your shoes making a dull, leaden clink on the stones. You don't smile. The mask is off. "Tell me a joke," the Duke says. You look at him. You see the deep lines around his eyes, the gray in his beard, the heavy iron key hanging from his neck that opens a treasury that is almost empty. "The funniest joke I know, Your Grace," you say, "is that you think you own this castle, but the stones were here before your grandfather was born, and the moss will be eating your bones long before these walls crumble." A guard at the door takes a step forward, his hand on his sword. The Duke raises a single hand to stop him. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't get angry. He just stares into the fire for a very long time. "Get out," he says quietly. You bow. A real bow this time, low and slow. You turn and walk out of the hall. As you step into the courtyard, the freezing winter air hits your face. The snow is falling, covering the dung and the mud, making the courtyard look clean and pure, if only for an hour. You reach up and pull the hood off your head. The bells go silent. For the first time all day, you can hear the wind. You can hear your own breath. You are free to leave the castle whenever you want. The gates aren't locked for a creature like you. But you look down at your twisted leg, your scarred wrists, and the gaudy yellow wool of your sleeve. You realize the most terrifying joke of all. You spent your whole life pretending to be a fool so you wouldn't be killed by the world. And now, you don't know how to be anything else. You pull the hood back over your ears. The bells jingle. You walk back into the dark.